G'day, it's Joy, and this is the story of how I healed myself after the surgeon said that I would never walk again. Actually, I kind of did it to spite him. I had not yet learned positive motivation. I was 15 years old and I hated this man. I watched him kill the woman in the bed next to me. He came into our room and he looked at her and said, "I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. You've got 3 weeks to live." Just like that. And I watched her take in what he'd said, and the light went out of her eyes and she started dying at that moment. And when he came to my bed and he said, I was lucky to still have my leg, but I wouldn't walk again, I told him I'd not only walk, I would dance on his grave. He tried to enroll the nurses in making sure I didn't get out of bed, but I was mates with the nurses. They were awesome. They would look the other way when I would incite wheelchair races up and down the corridors till I ran over matron. Sort of ended a bit abruptly there. They also covered up for me when, without being able to see what was out of the window, I would throw my hospital food out there. It was not a place for my wild 15-year-old self. The day came when I finally got myself into a position where I could take my first steps in one of those things where you put your arms in a sling, and there was about 20 feet that I had to navigate. Oh, the longest 20 feet of my life. I don't even remember how long it took me. But I finally was hanging there at the other end of this bar, and I was utterly and completely triumphant. I'd done it. I'd made myself walk. And in that moment of triumph, I looked over at the doorway. There was a mate standing there, and he'd seen it. And his eyes were filled with pity. And all of a sudden I saw myself from his perspective as this pathetic girl who was once always dancing, now just hanging there, sweating after taking a couple of steps. And it knocked me for a six, I won't lie to you. It took me a minute to get back up again. But after a while, a pity puddle gets smelly and you can't stay there forever, so eventually I did get up and kept on going and kept on walking and finally made it out of the hospital. But I was addicted to painkillers. They had given me everything ending in "-ine", and it's New Zealand and Australia, so it's pretty easy to just take the prescriptions to different chemists and get them filled at that stage. I didn't know what to do with the pain, so I just kept taking painkillers. And till I overdosed twice. I wasn't really trying to kill myself, although I was pretty angry at God for throwing me back, and I really wanted to get back there. I sort of had accepted, okay, well, clearly I'm not going to be allowed to. And then being me, I decided, all right, fine, I won't take any painkillers ever again. And I went cold turkey off all of them. I really don't recommend that. But I'm an extremist, so it was what I decided would work for me. I still don't take painkillers. But I really regretted that decision when I got back to New Zealand, because I was the first person ever to receive the pin operation. They basically pinned my femur together and for the first time in southeast Queensland, and then they sent me back home to New Zealand. And well, that surgeon didn't do the best job, because when I was standing there doing the dishes, I must have moved a bit strange, but the pin came out of my hip about that far, not enough to break the skin, but enough to tear the muscles up really bad. And my dad raced me off to the hospital, and they took one look and they said, "No, we don't know what to do with this. We've never seen this before. You have to go back to the original hospital that put it in." Well, it was about 18 months before we could manage to get me back to Australia. It was a rough time. I learned a bit of a wriggle and a twist to get the pin back in, but it would come out quite a lot. My poor little mother got quite used to having my mates bring me home. She'd open the door and there I'd be. I'll bring her in, and they'd carry me in. It was a challenging time. And I wondered why I wasn't healing. I didn't realise that I had done what I wouldn't let the doctor do. I had metaphorically amputated my leg, not knowing what else to do with the pain and not having any painkillers to fall back on. I did the only thing I knew how to do, which was ignore it completely and soldier on and just lock it in a cupboard and pretend it wasn't there. And you can't heal what you don't own. It was only when I learned to treat my pain like a crying child, and instead of ignoring it and making it wrong and making it bad, I literally learned to hold it and say, I'm so sorry that I have been making you wrong all this time. You are not a bad leg. You are a wonderful leg. You reach all the way to the ground. You still do your absolute best to walk me around despite everything I've done to you. I am not yelling at you anymore. I am listening to you now. Please tell me what you need and I will do everything I can to get that for you. Well, of course, it was the turning point. It's one of the most valuable lessons I've ever learned. Our bodies don't yell at us for no reason. Why would we do that? Pain is our friend. It's there saying, hello, there's something very wrong. It needs to be addressed. If we didn't have pain, we wouldn't know if there was anything wrong. When you treat your pain like a crying child and listen to it and love it and find out what it needs, you are in a much better position to heal everything. That is what I learned. And that's the message I want to pass on in this little chapter of my story. Much later I would learn how different emotions live in different parts of the body and what my left leg represented. But that's another story for another time. Thank you for listening to this one. Love your pain. Find out what it needs. I promise you it will always help.